Have you ever tried to intentionally have the best day of your life? Well, in the 5th chapter of Matthew, Jesus gives us 4 ways to actually have the best day of our lives. Now, I know that's not the context he gives for today's teaching, but I need you to bear with me for a minute here because sometimes we can hear something so many times that it loses its sharpness or its weight. And let's be honest, there's nothing really quite like hearing that amazing song or seeing that powerful scene in a movie for the first time. Every time we hear it after that, it can lose a little bit of its luster, let's say. When it comes to the Gospels, if you grow up hearing the story of Jesus, it's almost as if you never get a chance to really experience it for the first time, unless you're able to experience it in a new way that strikes you and causes you to pause. So let's try and do that here. Let's break this gospel down into Jesus' 4 different teachings and consider what it would be like if we dedicated an entire day to try to living that teaching completely. The first teaching is this. It's the famous turn the other cheek. You have heard it said that an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer, but if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. Fulton Sheen once said, hate multiplies like a seed. If one preaches hate and violence to 10 men in a row and tells the first to strike the second and the second to strike the third, that hatred is going to envelop all 10. The only way to stop the hate is for one man to turn to his other cheek. Then the hatred ends. Maybe I'm the only one here, but everywhere I turn, I seem to run into a chain of hatred. Well, what if we spent a day, just one day, being the person who breaks the chain? Being the one who doesn't retaliate or who doesn't just justify wrong action by citing the vile behavior of another person? What if hate was met with honorable conduct and persistent goodness? What would that day be like? The second teaching is, if anyone wants to sue you and take your coat and give your cloak as well, and if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile. Give to everyone who begs from you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you. Well, when I first heard this passage, I wanted to try and live it literally. So I asked God to put me in a situation where I could give the modern equivalent of my cloak. I prayed this prayer for a bit, probably about a month or so, until one day I went to a baseball game downtown here in Cincinnati on a cool September night. And my soon-to-be wife and I, we struck a conversation up with a homeless man, and he asked us for some food. We gave it to him. But during the conversation, he told me how worried he was about how it was going to get cold overnight and that he didn't have proper clothing. So I took a moment and thanked God for answering my prayer, and then I offered the homeless man the sweatshirt I was wearing right off my back. The man was stunned. He was stunned, but he also took it gratefully. Spend a day giving to everyone who asks of you and offering them something more than what they ask of you, and it'll be one of the best days of your life, and you'll never forget it. The third teaching is, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Get yourself ready, because this one's a doozy. What would your day be like if you took some time and wrote down all the people who made your blood boil? Those people who you want to go to God and ask him, God, what were you thinking when you made this person? Those who wronged you, who cut you off on the road, who put you down and didn't believe you. Those who spout views at the top of their lungs, you would have spent a lifetime opposing at the top of yours. And then pray for them. Pray for each of them by name. And as you go about your day, anytime someone does something, tweets something, says something that frustrates you, pray for them. The fourth teaching is, for if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do something for someone for an entire day who doesn't love you. There's someone in your life who drives you nuts. I know it, you know it, and that person immediately comes to your mind. They're not a mean or evil person at all. They're not terrible. They're just nails on a chalkboard to you, and you would probably rather spend a day with almost anyone else than this person. Well, that's the one you should do something kind for, like over the top generous. You'll be amazed at what happens next. You know, we often wonder, how did the world get to be such a mess? It seems to be the prevailing question of a whole generation of people who are exasperated by the state of the world and frustrated by the lack of a compelling answer to the question. That's the bad news, right? The good news is Jesus knows exactly how it got to be this way. And best of all, he knows how to turn it all around. The world is such a mess because it's turned its back on Jesus and his teaching. We got here because of unholy moments committed by loads of people every single day. And the only way to turn things around is to turn back toward Jesus and commit our lives to following his teaching and collaborating with him in the creation of holy moments. Today, Jesus shares 4 amazing ways for us to do that. And the fun thing is, if you do just one of them for an entire day, you'll have one of the best days of your life.